All right, Rob. Speaking of Derek Carr, one of his buddies, Davante Adams, who left Aaron Rodgers and the Packers as a free agent a few years ago to go to play with Carr, who was his teammate, his quarterback in college. I'm sorry, at Fresno State. And they were going to team up last year for the Raiders, and they did. And the team wasn't very good, but Adams put up huge numbers, mostly with Carr. And then, of course, Carr was jettisoned, and now he's with the New Orleans Saints.
Right.
And Davante Adams, Rob, is got to be just kicking himself. But these last two games, now, ironically, the Raiders, who are 3-3, won their last two games, but they were over the Packers and the Patriots. Davante, Rob, has 6 receptions, only 2 in the last game, for fewer than 80 yards. And he is none too pleased, and he talked about it yesterday.
When you're a player like me, mentally, my benchmark is not wins and losses, it's greatness. So when I go out there, I expect to be able to have that ability to put that on tape and have an influence on the game. That's my purpose for being here. I'm not here just to hang out. Came here to win and to do it the right way. If it don't look like it's supposed to look, then I'm gonna be frustrated if I'm not a part of that plan, because as you know, I have the opportunity to go and to change that and make it look like a much better picture out there. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm gonna be frustrated. It's not about me, but I'm one of the bigger pieces, as to why this offense is gonna go. And if I'm not getting it, then that's obviously not according to plan.
Can you argue with that? And this is not being a diva or whatever. I get it. He expects to be a part of it. He expects, if they're going to get to that level, that he is going to be a big part of the offense. It's not like they're lighting the house on fire, Chris, without him, like offensively.
No.
They're struggling. No. Even when they beat, think about this, even when they beat the Patriots, everybody else is scoring, 35 points on them, and they just barely beat them. And the Raiders are averaging 16.7 points per game, 5th worst in the NFL.
That's terrible.
And they still haven't eclipsed 20 points, Chris, offensively in any game. Not yet. So
yeah.
So I get all of that, and I'm here to say, I know Aaron Rodgers isn't in Green Bay anymore, Chris, or whatever. But I just wonder. I know Davante wanted to move there. He wanted to live in Nevada and all that, and reunite.
California.
Yeah, reunite with his college quarterback and all that. And I get all that. But to go to the Raiders and be a part of this, where you're not in the mix and you have a coach that really hasn't figured it out without Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels. And then what they did to his quarterback, knowing he came there for him. I bet you he probably regrets that he went to the Raiders, because he shouldn't have to be standing there explaining why he's not getting the football and why he's frustrated and why this team offensively isn't where it should be when you have a guy of his caliber. And then, this year they're 3-3, so they're at least 500. But it's not great. It hasn't been great.
Rob, let's just keep it real. How could he not? How could he not regret it? Now, I get you've talked about being to Green Bay and what it's like and what it is and what it is not. And it is not California.
We know that.
It is
I
not
told you,
Las
Chris,
Vegas.
Covering the Lions, I've been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, one time every year for 20 years. You know what I mean? I know the place.
So I can understand him wanting, no offense to Green Bay and the people in Wisconsin, but I can understand him not wanting to be there. Now, there is this, Rob. You're only there parts of the season. You can live wherever you want in the off season. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, you don't have to.
It's not like you have to. You're relegated to Green Bay, Wisconsin, 12 months a year. But so he may, maybe personally, he's glad that he's out of that town and in a bigger city. Although I'm sure, Rob, it's hard to kind of enjoy it to the degree that he'd like to, being that he's not happy with the football situation. And he has gone, it was a bad enough drop going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. All right. But imagine going from Aaron Rodgers to Jimmy Garoppolo. With all due respect to Jimmy, he won games, but, he's not a top-level quarterback. But now it's Aaron Rodgers to Aiden O'Connell and Brian Hoyer.
Right.
And you and I talked about this when he left Green Bay. Is he already a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame? It's iffy. I mean, wide receivers don't just get in.
No,
actually,
wide receivers struggle getting in. It took Chris Carter a million years.
Yeah,
it ain't that easy. It's not automatic. We did see Calvin Johnson get in his first ballot, and Randy Moss got in first ballot, but it's a struggle to get.
Yeah, and a lot of people took issue with him saying, I'm not measured by wins and losses. I'm measured by greatness. And I get on the surface, that might sound like,
yeah,
what?
I get it. But he is right, Chris. I don't mean to interrupt you.
He's absolutely right.
He's right because we don't measure wide receivers on that. Only quarterbacks get measured on that. I agree with that.
Right. Rob,
because otherwise, if that's the case, Calvin Johnson wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, Chris.
Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, Steve Largent, and you said it, Calvin Johnson. What do all those got? Terrell Owens, friend of the show. None of them have a Super Bowl ring.
Right.
Does it matter? I'm not, and I am not. I believe wholeheartedly that every single one of them and Davante Adams want to win as bad as anybody else. But your greatness at the end of your career or even during your career is not going to be, he won 3 Super Bowls.
No.
That's icing on the cake. The fact that Jerry Rice won Super Bowls is like icing on the cake. Rob, Tyreek Hill has won a Super Bowl. Are we talking more about him winning a Super Bowl with the Chiefs or him being this dynamic individual athlete
it's about that.
who all of a sudden has 2 about to win an MVP?
Right. It's way more about being dynamic and whatnot, and definitely not. And he's right that it isn't a win-loss thing. Nobody knows, hey, what was what's Davante's win-loss record? What
right. We do not talk that way.
We don't know it.
No. It doesn't matter at all in that regard. But that is for quarterbacks. But for the receivers, it is about, how great they are individually. Now, I will say this, Rob, and I think you'll probably agree with me. If Davante was on Miami or Cincinnati and they were winning, and he was only getting 3 targets a game, for a couple of game stretch, and he did this, then it would look bad. Because those are teams that actually have a chance to, they're in the Super Bowl
that
mix,
would be selfish.
Right?
That would be selfish.
That would be selfish. But this team, I don't care. I mean, look, God bless them, and Rob G, that's your team. It's nice and cute that they've won 2 games straight. But they're far from a contender, and they're not even getting in the playoffs. Let's keep it real.
Of course, he's wearing his Raiders shirt today. He had to just show me, Rob G.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, when you say, he's saying it because he's like, look, for us to even be remotely good, he didn't say this, but this is what he means. I got to be involved. We got no chance if I'm not involved.
Right. And who are you throwing to if you're not throwing to me? Help me out.
So, yeah, I got no issues with what Davante said. Rob, I think we said this. That was a tough move, man. Especially when we get Green Bay was kind of lowballing him initially.
But they offered
then they came back with the same
offer. So he could have stayed. And like I said, I just know that whatever was going on in Green Bay, Chris, whether it was with Aaron Rodgers or even Jordan Love, he'd be a big part of it. He'd be getting the football.
Oh, yeah.
Like that I don't think there'd be any question about it. Jordan Love might be a better quarterback already.
Right. No, that's a good point. And hard to leave Aaron Rodgers. Heck, Aaron Rodgers might still be there.
He might still be there. He might have been you know what? I'm not going my guy Davante's here.
Right.
Where am I going?